Yeah, hi everyone, good evening. I hope your Holi was great, and I hope you are back now. So let's continue our discussion. Let's get back to our studies. Okay, right. So today we are going to talk about Indian literature, Indian Vedic literature, right? Vedic literature and the philosophy related to the literature. But before we embark on this journey, I just want to understand that everything is fine. First of all, a quick attendance. Yeah, is everyone back? Yeah, namaskar. So I hope everyone is good. Everyone had a great Holi. Okay, okay. How many of you, or basically those of you who are with or who are from Titan 1.0 batch, can you please comment? Titan 1.0. Yeah, yeah, namaskar. Uncle, oh, I'm sorry. This is Titan batch. So let us rectify this part. So this is your Titan batch. My bad. Yeah, so it's Titan 2024. Yeah, fine now. Okay, yeah, so Titan 1.0, 2.0, both are here, right? Okay, so same chat, both the. Oh, nobody's senior here, man. Okay, so let's get back. Actually, you are from both. Okay, great. So, okay, so let's get back to our discussion. So, we were discussing, quick recap. So, we were discussing we can actually divide it in three parts again. And we were discussing from 1500 BC, 1500 BC to 1000 BC, 1000 BC. What we know that this was Rig Vedic era, right? Rig Vedic. Similarly, from 1000 BC to 500 BC, it was later Vedic era. I hope you use this holy time for clearing your backlog, and there's hardly any backlog now. Bone implement is technically tools made of bones, right? Okay, so Rig Vedic era. So we understood that we were pastoral at this point, and then related polity. It was tribal, military, related economy, hardly any trade. It was mostly pastoral and society building up, right? And from here we realized that there was some kind of evolution. In fact, the next phase is nothing but transition towards Mahajanpadas, Mahajanpadas, right? Towards urbanization, towards space, towards trade, towards currency, towards kings who has standing army, who has proper taxation system, who has bureaucracy, who has palaces, right? But later Vedic era is just built up. Only addition which we had over here is that here somewhere here we started agriculture, which changed our life. And around 800 BC, we know that we brought iron. We started using iron. So I hope we all are we all are aligned to this point. Yeah. Later Vedic era we had rural settlements. Yes, it was all rural till this point. Right. That is the reason it is transition. Here we have urban. The changes will the urban you can say characteristics will start somewhere here, close to 500. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, so today first of all we'll understand. We know what was written in Rig Veda, but it's time to understand the literature at this point. Literature, right? Other Vedas, then related books, and then Smriti literature. The first thing we will understand literature. Second thing from here, the second thing we'll build up is philosophy. So right now it's like we are taking a detour. It's mostly you can say the discussion is mostly related to or is mainly from culture, but we should study it here itself. Reason this philosophy will help us build the story further. Right, philosophy will help us actually go for go for the discussion of Buddhism and Jainism, and that is the reason. That is the reason it is important to have this philosophical discussion at this point. Right, the class might sound like some satsang over it, right? Because we'll be having this philosophical discussion about life, discussion about Brahma, Atma, etc., etc. That might seems like might look like a religious class or satsang class, but it is not so. Try to understand the crux or essence of the discussion. Okay, so let's start from here. Okay, so let's go to the literature discussion first. By the way, again, this is again from culture, but let's see some questions which were asked in main, and this is 2020. Right, it says Indian philosophy and tradition. Right, so Indian philosophy and tradition played a significant role in conceiving and shaping the monuments. Right, what this question means to say is that our philosophy is something which defines, or basically you can say important element of our architecture. Are you getting my point? This was the question. Can you relate philosophy and architecture? Can you tell us something where you have let's say a sculpture, you have a monument, for example, stupa, for example, a temple, and why stupa or why temple or why were there cave architecture? What all things are there in cave architecture? All these things is defined by philosophy. Right? The philosophy will tell you that okay, based on this story, or basically this story is important, and this story should be painted on the wall, maybe painted on the you can say on the roof. Right? Similarly, this story is so important that we need to have a sculpture. Similarly, some philosophy believes into stupa, and we need to expand stupa. Later on, the philosophy shifted to Brahmanism, where temple became important. Basically, we got this idea of temple and we started making temples. So philosophy is something which governs or basically directs your architecture. Right? So this connection, you basically wants to build this connection. Right? What is the connection between philosophy and tradition? That means your culture and the monuments. Right? So very very good element, very important element to think about. Other than that, there are two questions from the bhakti part. Mostly you can say medieval or purely culture. So I teach this in culture only. Because if I teach this in medieval, but then we talk in culture, then we talk about the same thing in the culture, will be actually waste of time. So that is the reason I take bhakti movement in culture only. Okay, so evaluate the nature of the bhakti literature. Again, you cannot understand bhakti until and unless you understand the philosophy which we are going to discuss today. Right? If you understand that philosophy, the core part, then we can understand bhakti, Sufi, why this kind of reform is important, why it is being called as reform. All these things we can understand if we understand the Indian philosophy or basically this Vedic philosophy which we are going to talk about today. So see, this part is bit technical. Right? The Indian philosophy part, the Shara Darshan is a bit philosophy, bit technical. But if you understand that part, no, if you basically understand the whole crux of the foundation part, not like expert in philosophy, but if you understand that part, things will become very very simple for you. Right. Again, 2018, the Bhakti movement received a remarkable reorientation with the advent of Sri Chaitanya. So this Bhakti, you'll find Bhakti multiple times. Bhakti is like a very, very important topic. And in fact, philosophy is a very important topic. Right. But do understand that this is general study. We are not studying philosophy optional. So our discussion will be limited to general studies only. We'll not go very deep. We'll just try to build up the things which are important from general studies point of view. Right? Let's go. Okay. In prelims, they had asked this question in 2014, where they asked just to recognize the names of the school. Today we'll study on them, but just recognize the names of the school. That's it. Since in 2014 they have already asked, you need to recognize Mimamsa, Vedanta, Nyaya, etc. Now they are free to ask. They can definitely ask about Vedanta or Mimamsa or Nyaya or Vaisheshika. Now there is a possibility. You can expect a question where they will go again a surface level question, but somewhere from Vedanta or Nyaya. Possible to ask? Yes, it is possible. That they might ask. Okay, so let's go. So first of all, we'll be discussing Vedic literature. Vedic literature, Veda. Veda technically comes from the word Vidya, means knowledge. So the Ved, the four Vedas, or the Vedic literature, basically is assumed as it is revealed by God Himself. They are revealed, and that is the reason they are also called as Apaurusha. Apaurusha. Apaurusheya. It's there in your PPT, don't worry. Apaurusha. It means that it was not written by a Purush. It was not written by a man. It is basically told by God Himself. God Brahma Himself has revealed this knowledge to us, and that is the reason it is Apaurusha. Also, the Vedas are Nitya. Nitya means it does not come with any expiry date. This knowledge is evergreen. This knowledge is forever. This knowledge is eternal. It is, you can say, timeless. It is eternal. There is not a point where you can say from here onwards this knowledge will not apply. No, it's eternal. It's always applicable. Right? It's about with means knowledge. It's Apaurusha. It's basically Nitya, timeless, eternal. Now this literature also initially it was all oral. We have already discussed this part. It was all oral. Reason, we were not having any script to write it down. So it was all oral in the initial stage. Now, yeah, okay. Let's use this like. Okay. So the first Ved which was written is Rig Veda. Right, Rig Veda. Do we already understand Rig Veda? Yes. There were some 128 hymns. Yeah, 1028 hymns written for various gods, written for Indra, Agni. Then what all gods are there? Aditi, Usha, then Varuna, Mitra. So many gods, right? So we saw that there were like 33 main gods or 33 gods for whom all these hymns were written. So 33 gods, 128 hymns. And if you remember, correct, there were some 10 mandals, right? 1 to 10 books, 10 books technically. 1 and 10 were latest, right? We also studied about the third book. Third book was by Vishwamitra. It has Gayatri Mantra. So we have already read that part. Now in the later Vedic part, this was what Rig Vedic era. Now everything else is later Vedic. Now other Ved which was written. Now in later Vedic era, we have another Ved which is Yajurveda. Yajurveda. Right, Yajurveda. What is Yajurveda? Maybe you can also make a chart like this, but I suggest use a complete A4 page. Right, use a complete new page for this because I'll be writing a lot of things. If I could not write most of the things here, if I use another page, if possible, please write in the same page. Right, so that this becomes like one stand or basically standalone point where all of this discussion you can write it down and you can easily revise. That is the whole motive over here. Okay, one more thing about Rig Veda. Just one thing I forgot to mention. In Rig Veda, the priest who understands or who reads or basically who follows Rig Veda is called as Hotri. Hotri priest. Hotri. Now after Rig Veda, there is Yajurveda. Yajurveda is about rituals. We have ceremonies. We have basically right rituals. Yajurveda is about rituals. Yajurveda talks about, for this thing you should do this thing. Suppose there is a marriage, so this is the whole process and all. So Yajurveda talks about basically rituals. The priest over here is Adhavaryu. Adhavaryu priest. Okay, so let's try understanding the difference between what we were thinking and discussing in Rig Veda and what new happened in this new era, Yajurveda. Rig Veda, if you remember, Rig Vedic era was more about prayers. It was more about meditation. It was not meditation exactly, but it was more about praying to the god, and ritual was not very important, right? So these 1,028 hymns are more about worshipping Indra or a particular god, right? But observe Yajurveda, where I'm saying that this is about rituals, this is about ceremonies. Here what we are finding that now your prayer is not that important, but your sacrifices or rituals or basically you do this thing, this mantra, this is becoming more important over here. Like earlier it was more about praying. So from Yajurveda you can understand that things have changed. Right? Now in Yajurveda is written in two forms. One is Krishna, what we know, Krishna, and one is Shukla. Right? Two parts we have Yajurveda. Krishna is technically written in prose form. Prose means simple talking language, right? The way we talk or something. It's like more like paragraph. Right? Shukla is in rhyming form, verse form. Right, so Krishna is, you can remember like Krishna is talking very simply, right? That is your Yajurveda, but Shukla is a poet, right? The Shukla, you just for the sake of remembering, right? The Shukla is in verse form, who writes in some rhyming fashion. It's more like Shairi, not Shairi, but a poem, right? Yeah. So Yajurveda is in two formats. Then the third Veda which we want to discuss is the Samaveda. Samaveda is about music. There is hardly 75 new hymns over here. Otherwise, it is about giving music to the hymns of Rig Veda. right? Or Yatharveda or any other Veda, where Samved basically Samved what it does. Suppose there's a mantra which is like, let's say Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Tat Savitur Varenyam, something like that. Right? So suppose it is written in your Rig Veda. Right? Rig Veda has a mantra, Gayatri mantra, Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Tat Savitur Varenyam. Now Samved, what Samved will tell you that you don't have to say like this Om Bhur Bhuva Swa Tat Savitur Varenyam. Instead you should say Om Bhur Bhuva Swa, something like that, so that there is a music. So it is the first book which we have in our country which is actually dedicated to music is your Samveda. So third Ved, so that is the reason it is not having new hymns. Hardly few hymns which are new. Otherwise, it is giving tune or music to the original hymns or the old hymns of Rig Veda. Yeah, so Samved is only and only about music. Yeah, the priest who has this understanding is called as Udgatri. Udgatri priest, somebody who has understanding of this music. Right, Udgatri priest. Now the last Ved is Atharva Veda. Atharva Veda is the Ved where we have magic, charms, spells, right? And that Ved is Atharva Ved. Now, since it talks about magic, charms, and all, and that is the reason many of the scholars do not consider Atharva Ved as a part of Ved, but that is okay. We will take it as a part of Ved only. Sorry, we'll take it as a fourth Ved. So yeah, the magic, spells, charms, and this Ved was written by Atharva Angirasa. Atharva and another Rishi, Angirasa. Two Rishi. So that is the reason it is also called as Atharva Angiras. But this question should not be asked, reason it's very obvious that it's Atharva Ved. Right, so Atharva Angirasa. The Ved, Atharva Ved is the first Ved which talks about Gotra. So in Atharva Ved we have a discussion of Gotra. There is Gotra. We are discussing Gotra, right? It also talks about treatment of multiple diseases, treatment of many diseases, treatment of like 99 diseases at least. Right. So Atharva Ved is not only about magic, charms, and spells, but it is also talking about treatment of these diseases, 99 diseases. Plus it talks about your householder life. What should be a life of a married man or a grahast man who has a house to take care? Right. So that whole responsibility is written in Atharva Ved. Last point, Atharva Ved mentions that the god Prajapati has two daughters, Sabha and Samiti. Sabha and Samiti. Yeah, all these things are written in your Atharva Veda. So householder, life of a householder, Sabha and Samiti as a daughter of Prajapati. So who is Sabha? What is Sabha and Samiti? Sabha and Samiti are those political organizations which we were discussing in Rig Veda. Rig Vedic era, we have mention of Sabha and Samiti. Right, we are talking about Sabha and Samiti are important. Sabha is the house of elders. Sabha is basically house of counselors. The experienced people, they are the part of Sabha. And Samiti was meant to elect people. But later on, it is more like you can say it's nominal. It's a namesake where it is just being said that Prajapati has two daughters, Sabha and Samiti. Actual relevance of Sabha and Samiti? No, there is no actual relevance of Sabha and Samiti. It hardly matters. So by the time Atharva Ved was written, Sabha and Samiti had lost its value. It had lost its actual function. Its whole political function was lost. Sabha was taken over by the priests and all, the Brahmins, and Samiti hardly mattered anymore. Again, it's 4 Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Atharva Veda. So 4 Vedas. Rig Veda was written in Rig Vedic era. All the other Vedas were written in your later Vedic era. Okay, please note this down. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll basically use this part again for adding more things. But in your copy, also in the slide, it's still there. I copied the slide so that I can use more space. Right. So going forward. So till this point, we have understood or we discussed the core part of the Veda. The core part of the Veda is also called as Samhita. Right. So basically, we were talking about Rigvedic Samhita, Yajurvedic Samhita, Samvedic Samhita, Atharvedic Samhita. Samhita, the main book, the more important book. But then there were some more addition to the same book. For example, let's say there's a book of modern India, right? Which is more like a main textbook. But then in addition to what happened, somebody added more annexures to it, or let's say more chapters to it, or somebody said, okay, let's add post-independence to the same book. Are you getting my point? So same modern India will have some more additions to maybe explain this or take the whole discussion forward. Similarly, let's say there's another book, Ancient India, and then there is some addition. For example, somebody added, let's say, more philosophical discussion over it. Right? Then there is some more addition. For example, somebody said that, okay, let's talk about maybe history dependent upon or economy dependent upon history, a new chapter, and this is the third chapter. Similarly, in ancient also somebody added economy dependent upon ancient India. Not third chapter, but some annexure or some new addition. Right? So here, what we can say that the original book or the first book which was written, which is the core part is Samhita. Right? This is the core discussion of modern India or ancient India, medieval India. But then there were some more addition. The first addition which we had was Brahmana. Right? Brahmana. So right. So let's talk about the another addition, which is Brahmanas. Now the idea is why do we have Brahmanas? What is Brahmana? So the first kind of book we have Ved, or instead you can say core Vedic Samhita. Then we had some other books which are Brahmanas. Sorry. Now what is Brahmana? Now Brahmana is basically, Brahmanas are explanation of rituals. Okay, again. Now what we are doing over here we said that Rigveda has some hymns. Yajurveda is talking about rituals and ceremonies. It is telling us, for example, again hypothetically, right? So why hypothetically? Because I'm not a Vedic priest, right? So I cannot say what exact ceremonies are written in Veda. So we are not discussing exact ceremonies. But still assume that Yajurveda has whole chapter on how to conduct a marriage. Right, how to conduct a marriage. Now, Yajurveda says, for example, hypothetically, Yajurveda says that for marriage, husband has to, put Mangal Sutra in the neck of or in the on the bride. Right, in the neck of the bride, he has to put a Mangal Sutra. Right, suppose Yajurveda says that. So now, what Brahmana will tell? So here, Brahmana book, the Brahmanas will tell you why Mangal Sutra. Right, it will give you an explanation that suppose a hand goes like this, and when you add this Mangal Sutra, you actually embrace her, you actually declare to the world that now she is yours, something like that, some that kind of explanation. The explanation of that ritual, whatever happens over here, or basically over here, all those explanations, why it was done so, all explanation comes under Brahmana. So Brahmanas explain it. Brahmanas explain the meaning of the rituals, purpose of the rituals, or the significance of the rituals. Right, Brahmanas were technically written in prose form. Right, so Brahmanas basically do we have to discuss any Brahmana? Yes. Okay, so Brahmanas basically were written in prose form. Right, in normal speaking language. This is the reason why it was done so. Right, so Brahmanas, prose form. Other than that, yeah, so Brahmanas and together with Vedas, they talk about Karma Marga. Karma Marga. Now, what is Karma Marga? Let's get back to this concept first. Do we all understand that till this point, till the point of Brahmanas, what we are discussing, what we are trying to assert over here, that rituals are very, very important. This is how you need to do a ritual, or you need to do a sacrifice. But why? What is the ultimate goal over here? Right. So to understand that part, let's build another thing. What is the purpose of life? Yeah, I told you this is philosophical today. What is the purpose / goal of life? What is the goal of life? Right, then only we can get back to what we're discussing there. What is the goal of life? Now, the goal of life is you need to achieve dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These 4 things are the purpose of your life, or the goals of your life as per Vedic philosophy. So as per Vedic philosophy, these things are something which you have to achieve in your life. Now, dharma is basically what you can say. Suppose you are Kshatriya, so basically you have to go for your Kshatriya dharma. If you are something else, you have to go for that dharma. So dharma is technically what role you are assigned that way. Suppose you are Brahman, you have to go for Vedic studies. So that is dharma. Artha is technically your production related or economy related. Right, economy related. So you have to contribute to the economy. You have to do something so that you are basically earning. Right, in today's scenario, you need to do a job or a business, something like that, and that is what? That is artha. Yeah. Okay, artha. Kam is about desire. Now, desire, mostly Kam refers to your desire for sexual desires and other desires. But in nutshell, we can talk about it also includes other desires. It's about your wishes, your desire that you want to do something, you want to go somewhere, something. But yes, so Kam. So third important goal of the life is Kam, which is also related to reproduction. Right. Fourth is moksha. Fourth is technically liberation. So these 4 things are something which a person is supposed to achieve in his life. Dharma is more related to role. You can also write duty. You can also write righteousness. Right, what is dharma? What is the duty? What is your function? Right, so duty is one thing. Artha is another thing. Artha is related to economy. Artha is related to earning. Right. For example, again in very, very layman terms, you can say dharma is more about what you are supposed to do as, let's say, citizen of India, or let's say good human being. That is what dharma. As a human being or as a part of society, there are some duties which you should do, or there is a way you should behave in a society. That is dharma. Right. Similarly, artha is you have to do some job. You need to earn something. You need to have some some productivity or some productive contribution to the economy. So you should be related to some kind of production. So you should basically produce something, and you should earn something. Third is kam. It is about your desire, sexual desire, and also related to reproduction, also related to the next production of next generation. And the last one is moksha, which is liberation. Now, liberation is what is liberation? So moksha. Now, how to reach this? See, dharma, okay, you have to behave in a particular fashion. We're not very today. Artha again, you can decide how you want to go about this, what you want to do in an economy. But moksha, the toughest part is moksha. How to get moksha in life? How to get moksha in the life? Any idea? How to actually get liberated? Now, the first thing is, what is liberation? So then we need to understand that we all have atma. I'm not saying we have atma, but yes, assume that we have a soul and we have atma. Now, because of some issue, or because of, you can say, some desire, right, or because of some other issue, that's not the only desire, we actually die and we take rebirth. We get born again. This whole cycle of death and birth, right, is called as samsara. Right, why we are discussing this will help us in Buddhism as well. So this whole cycle of birth and death is called as samsara, and actually liberation from samsara is your moksha. If you can get rid of the cycle of life and death, the cycle of birth and death, right? Again, you come back, you take, you get born again, you go through the whole cycle again, and then you die again. Not only as a human, but maybe in other forms as well. Maybe sometimes as sometimes as an animal, sometimes as other form. Different philosophies, different thought process. So this whole cycle is called as samsara. That is you must have heard, samsaric moh maya. Right? So that is samsara. Right? We are trapped in this whole cycle. We actually go on, dying and taking birth again and again, and we get trapped into this cycle, and we could not get moksha. You have to get out of this cycle to get moksha. Now, what are the possible ways? As per the Indian philosophy, one way is karma. Karma. It means if you do karma, what kind of karma? If you do rituals / sacrifices. If you do rituals / sacrifices, that means what was being proposed over here. Rituals, right? If you do these rituals, and Brahmanas are explaining the same thing, so both were talking about the same thing. If you do rituals, if you do yajna, right? If you do yajna, ritual sacrifices, also including animal sacrifices, as per theory, then you will get what? You will get moksha. So this is one way of liberation. Yeah. Another way important to us is, which we'll learn sometime. No, we can get back to another way, but let's continue. Okay, so Brahmanas. So technically now you understand that Brahmanas and Vedas, they are talking about karma marga. They are talking about you can get moksha, you can be liberated if you do these rituals, if you do these ceremonies. Yeah, think again about this. All this discussion, all the Vedas and Brahmanas are saying, are promising, you can get moksha by doing this. Try digesting this part. Now, Brahmanas, here Brahmanas, I would like to talk about two Brahmanas. One is Atriya. One is Atriya Brahmana. Atriya Brahmana. Now, Atriya Brahmana is written by Mahidasa Atriya. Mahidasa Atriya. Right. Then this is the one which talks about origin of kingship. Origin of kingship. This Brahmana also talks about there are 5 geographical locations in India. So it is discussing 5 geographical locations in India. Right, again, both are important, both can be directly asked. UPSC once asked from which Upanishad we found Satyamev Jayate. Right, so this question is already asked. So Satyamev Jayate, so they asked from which Upanishad we got something. Again, origin of kingship, 5 geographical locations in India. We are not going to study all the Brahmanas, important ones. So Atriya is written by Mahidasa Atriya, again easy. Origin of kingship and 5 geographical location, it is written in Atriya. There are more Brahmanas like Kaushitaki and all, but I'm writing only those who have some relevance. Then another Upanishad which is important is Atriya. Okay, now you must understand this Atriya is part of Rig Veda. Understood? This Rig Veda, the continuation of Rig Veda, or you can say addition to Rig Veda is Atriya. There are more Brahmanas like Kaushitaki. So Atriya and Kaushitaki, both books are associated with Rig Veda only. That is the reason we made such kind of chart. Now Yajurveda has Tatriya Brahmana. Tatriya Brahmana. Right? Tatriya Brahmana talks about, you remember Upanayana Sanskar? It is written in this book, Upanayana Sanskar. Plus, related to plow ritual. Suppose you want to start plowing, right? Plowing, you have to do this sacrifice of this ritual first. And then there are more Brahmanas. So I've given the chart in the notes, but it's okay. If you can make this one, others you can just go to the names and all. But these are the ones who have something which can be asked in MCQ. So I'm only writing about those. So Brahmanas. There are more, but I'm not writing, right? Okay. So Brahmanas, we are done with the Brahmanas. Now after Brahmanas, another book which was written are Aranyakas. Now see, Aranyakas are somewhere questioning what are you doing, but not properly. It's a mild opposition. And if you do mild opposition, nobody listens to you, right? If you just say, you should not have done that, right? People hardly, care. Yeah, it's okay if I done that. If I did that, right? So Aranyakas is very, very mild opposition. So they hardly matters to us. These books, Aranya technically means forest, right? So these books are basically for ascetics. Those who are sannyasi have gone to forest or hermits, right? These books are basically meant for those. Yeah, if you go to a forest or something, what are things you should do? So Aranyakas, mild opposition of rituals, right? And this book is mainly for ascetic. So Aranyakas, you can say, are having a philosophical take. I'm writing Aranyakas over here. Aranyakas. Is there any Aranyaka which is important? No, we can skip. So technically, we can write like this. Aranyakas. So now every Samhita, basically every Ved will have some your Aranyaka books as well associated with them, right? And not so not important for us, not very important for us. Reason that it is opposing, but not a proper opposition. There is some philosophical take on this, right? You can say it is closer to Upanishad. Now the point is that population must be feeling blunt or must be worried about rituals, about this karma mark. Now think about this karma mark. Karma mark talks about rituals. Karma mark talks about that a pandit or a brahman is supposed to do a puja. Again, karma mark is something which is talking about ritual, which is asking you to have some puja, sacrifice, yajna at your house or or in the public. Right? That means you need to spend money, and also it has the concept of animal sacrifices. Right? So again, coming back to the mark. So if you see this karma mark, there is so much emphasis on ritual sacrifices and animal. So karma mark is not the great mark. Right? In fact, people are somewhere opposing this karma mark. Right? They don't want to kill animals. Reason they don't want to kill animals because now they are into agriculture. They don't want to kill bullocks. But the number of bullocks are decreasing. You can say that don't kill your bullock, but if the number of bullocks will decrease, then definitely they will be tough to find. Right? There will be high demand and very less supply. It will be problematic. You will not be able to expand beyond a point. So we need more bulls, more animals, but philosophy till this point, or you can say philosophy till this point, till we had Vedas, Brahmanas, and even with Aranyakas, hardly mattered. Nothing changed. We were still having this philosophy that okay, this is important. We should have Upanayana Sanskar, we should have plow rituals, right? This is how kingship is important, or king is becoming important. King should also have something, right? So all these things are mentioned over here. So now till this point it's problematic, and now you need some kind of opposition. Now you need some kind of proper opposition. This mild opposition will not work. In fact, it is believed that this opposition mainly came from Kshatriyas, right? Maybe or from Vaishya as well. But what is evident is that maybe this idea, basically this opposition, came from Kshatriya. And then there is a new marg coming in. I'm not saying Kshatriya actually did that, but we believe so, that the other marg came into picture for gaining moksha is your Gyan marg. And for Gyan marg, or basically the new books which spoke about Gyan marg are your Upanishads. So now we have more addition to Rig Veda, more addition to Yajurveda, more addition to Samveda, right? Which is not proposing, which is not supporting the earlier view, which is not supporting the karma marg, but everywhere you find that when Upanishad comes into picture, they talk about what? They talk about Gyan marg, they talk about knowledge. That via knowledge, right? Via knowledge, by understanding few things in a better way, you can actually get moksha. So now here in Upanishads, let's talk about Upanishads now. Upanishad. Now Upanishad, they are written in, first of all, it's like to sit near. right? To sit near, Upanishad, right? Upanishad, to sit near means, यहाँ ये बैठिए, मतलब please come close to the guru, please come to the close to the sage and sit here, and I'll tell you something. It's like that. You have to go to a saint or a sage, and you need to sit there, and he will tell you something. So Upanishad, okay? So like that. So now to sit near is technically Upanishad. It is written in prose and verse both. Few books are in prose, few books are in verse, right? So both the formats were used, and it is proposing Gyanmar. Now in Upanishad they will talk about transmigration of soul, right? They will talk about there is something like heaven, there is something like hell, right? Most importantly, they will talk about monotheism. They will talk about Brahma. What is all this? Okay. So now think about this. Let's say this is universe, right? Let's say this is universe. Yeah, please try to understand. Okay, universe. Now in universe, what we can find there is matter and there is soul. Right? Either there is matter or there is soul. Soul can also include in your technical terms force. Right? So it is either this matter or the force, or you can say inside us, either this is this body or the soul inside us. That is universe. Now this is equivalent to, or this may not be equivalent to Brahma. What that means? Whether it is equivalent to or it is not equivalent to Brahma. What is true? Now the point is now there will be various thoughts. Now initially in Upanishad what we will see that you must have heard this term Aham Brahmasmi. Right? Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi means I am Brahma. How can I be Brahma? Okay, think about this. So suppose if the whole universe is technically Brahma, or the soul is actually the part of Brahma, if this is Atma or soul and he is Paramatma or Brahma, if I am, my soul is, let's say, a minuscule part, a very small part of Brahma, then I'm actually part of Brahma, and then I am Brahma, because I am his part, right? So that way I am Brahma himself. Now it might sound very arrogant, right? I'm Brahmasmi, I'm powerful, I'm God. No, it is not arrogant. It is more like that. Why am I searching God anywhere else? God is inside me. I'm part of Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi. Right? So if I am Brahma, I need to look inside. Right? I don't have to go and find God anywhere. I need to look inside. I need to go inside and find God, because he is inside me. I'm his part. Right? So that way Aham Brahmasmi. So Upanishad is talking about all these things. Upanishad is talking about introspection. Upanishad is talking about Gyan. Right? It's talking about knowledge. You need to go deep inside yourself, right, and find God, find this ultimate power. And maybe this ultimate power is universe, right? Or maybe this universe is made from the ultimate power, Brahma. Now we don't know. That's something which enlightened person can comment, right? The enlightened person can comment that Brahma and the universe are separate, or say few people will say that they are different. If they both are different, that philosophy will be called as, if it is different, it will be called as Dvaita. Dvaita means two. Dvaita. If some philosopher says that both Brahma and this universe are same, or Atma universe is same, or basically this is universe only, right, or this is Brahma only, this philosophy will be called as Advaita. And there can be more development over it. So various philosophers will actually take different cue from this Upanishadic thought. But what Upanishad thought presents before you is there are no 33 gods, so there are no so many gods. There is just one power, which is Brahma. So Upanishad technically propounds monotheism. Just one god, monotheism. One power from whom whole thing or the whole universe emerged. Just one power. So we all should be worshipping, or we all should be trying to find Brahma. We all should actually think about, or introspect or meditate, right, or ponder upon the existence of Brahma, or how we are connected to that power, and that is the reason it is talking about monotheism. And if we actually cannot dwell into it, then this transmigration of soul keeps on rotating. This birth keeps on happening. Birth, death. You will be trapped. But you can find moksha if you can introspect, if you can meditate, if you can go deep. Right. So this is technically Upanishad talking about. Upanishad talks about this new philosophy where Upanishad is not at all aligned with your karma marg and is proposing Jnana marg. This is new thought, Upanishadic thought. In the end, because people are not aligned with this thought process, people are not aligned with this, you can say emphasis on rituals. There is too much focus on rituals. There is too much focus on sacrifices of the karma. So finally, Upanishad came into picture. Upanishad talks about Brahma, that is monotheistic, that's one god. No 1028 times or basically so many gods or something. No, just one power, one god, which is Brahma, which is the ultimate power, right? Ultimate power, and we all are connected. Or basically, Atma is basically part of Brahma. Understood? So here we have some Upanishads. For example, there is three are important. One is Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This one. Brihadaranyaka. This one is oldest Upanishad. This is oldest Upanishad. And Brihadaranyaka talks about transmigration of soul. Brihadaranyaka talks about the word, the thing which we were discussing, Aham Brahmasmi. Very important. Aham Brahmasmi. Then it also talks about Astoma Sadgamaya. And this is not important. You can skip this one if you want. Right. So let me show you what we're talking about. Okay, I'll show you. So it has Astoma Sadgamaya. Astoma Sadgamaya technically means Astoma Sadgamaya. From falsehood lead me to truth. Tamsoma Jyotirgamaya. From darkness lead me to the light. And then Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. From death lead me to immortality. This philosophy is from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay, then there is one more Upanishad, Mandu or Mundaka. Mandu Upanishad. This talks about Satyamev Jayate. This also talks about that Yagya, right? It is criticizing Yagya and says that Yagya are the broken boats. Right, Mandu Upanishad talks about that Yagya or sacrifice is actually a broken boat. It cannot take you anywhere. It's a broken boat, right? Do not ride on the broken boat, or do not ride on Yagya. So basically, it is criticizing your karma marga. Okay, anyway, then one is Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad. Taittiriya is here. Taittiriya Upanishad. Now in Taittiriya you can write about, Taittiriya talks about Krishna. Taittiriya also talks about Brahma and difference between Atma. The difference between Brahma and Atma is in Taittiriya. Right, and the last one will come here. It is using the space Chandogya. Chandogya Upanishad. No, wait. Made one mistake. Chandogya Upanishad is technically Krishna, talks about Krishna, and Chandogya Upanishad talks about the relation between Brahma and Atma. Right, he's correct. Chandogya Upanishad. Chandogya. And Taittiriya Upanishad, Matra Devo Bhava. Matra Devo Bhava. Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava. All this thought basically, your parents are God. That this thought technically comes from your Taittiriya Upanishad. So Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Achara Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo Bhava. Right, Atithi Devo Bhava is basically Taittiriya Upanishad. Right, so your parents, your God, your teacher is basically your parents, your teacher, and your guest. All these are gods, right? All these should be gods for you. So this is written in Taittiriya Brahmana. Sorry, Taittiriya Upanishad. Now there are like 108 Upanishads. We are not going to discuss that. But these are few which can be asked in the examination. So we have finished the first part. We have finished the first part where, so technically Vedic literature can be divided into two parts. Remember, Shruti and Smriti. Shruti is one which is revealed by God, right? We have discussed Vedas, the original one, 4 Vedas. We have discussed Brahmanas, explanation. We have discussed Aranika's mild opposition, right? And then we have discussed your Upanishads. Right, Upanishads are about Gyan Marg. These two are about Karma. It is somewhere in between. Aranika's is somewhere in between. Right, now let's talk about Smriti literature. The Smriti literature which is memory based, which is written by humans. So basically composed by humans, later on written down. Are we all aligned in this point? Yeah, so I understand a bit technical, but a quick chat. Did you understand this much? Chat is on. Now you can comment if you have not slept. Yeah. Not very tough. Maybe you are studying or basically listening this for the first time. So maybe may sound a bit technical. I know so many new names coming into picture. But for the time being, what you can do? For the time being, you just try to understand the essence of it. Right? Like there are 4 Vedas, something is related to music, something is more into rituals. Initially, there was so much emphasis on the rituals. Right? Okay, we are repeating it once. Okay, great. Okay. So what we're discussing Vedic literature, we are understanding Shruti part, right? Shruti means which is like revealed by God, very important, right? So revealed by God. So we found that after Rigveda, which was Vedic era, there are 3 more Veds written. Yajurveda, which talks about rituals, ceremonies, Samveda, which is giving music to whatever hymns are given in Rigveda, and then another Veda which talks about magic, charms and all. Right. Again, the nitty-gritties and all you can add later on as well, no issues. But first of all, try understanding the essence. Initially, the Brahmins are focusing more on rituals right now. Then there were Brahmanas attached to it. Again, there are so many Brahmanas, but only we wrote those names which can be asked in UPSC, like Atriya. Atriya, where we talk about origin of kingship, we are talking about it was written on Mahidas Atriya. There are 5 geographical locations we discussed. Then Taittiriya Brahmana. Taittiriya Brahmana is where we have Upanayan Sanskar, law rituals. So this is talking about rituals. So till this point, it was all about rituals. But then are Atriya and Kaushitaki same? No, it's different. Right? Atriya Brahmana, Kaushitaki Brahmana. But Atriya Brahmana and Kaushitaki Brahmana, both names are here only. They are not same, right? Atriya Brahmana, Kaushitaki Brahmana. Atriya Aranika, Kaushitaki Aranika. Atriya Upanishad, Kaushitaki Upanishad. Getting the point? Right. I'll show you the chart. Wait, don't worry. First of all, I wanted to make it myself. Right? I wanted you to note down. I wanted you to write things first. And then we can go to the chart as well. Otherwise, it will be too much overwhelming. Now, Taittiriya, so till this point, we were into ritual. Now, Aranikas came into picture. They should have a post, but they have not a post. Are you getting point? Aranikas were supposed to, oppose this ritual thing, mild opposition. And that is the reason if there is mild opposition, we hardly discuss that part. So, no relevance of Aranikas at first. Then Upanishads came into picture. Upanishad was like that no, we cannot only have Mokshvaya, your Karma Marg. We can have Mokshvaya, Gyan Marg as well. Right, there they brought this concept of relation between Atma and Brahma. Right, Chandogya Upanishad, Brahma and Atma. There we started discussing that this Atma is coming out of Brahma only. So if we understand Atma, if we understand ourselves, we can understand Brahma. Right, instead of worshipping so many people, so many gods, we should worship. By the way, religious disclaimer is on, right? No religious discussion. It is only for our internal UPSC thing, So please take it that way only. And that is the reason Upanishads are also called as Vedanta. Right, sometimes it is also referred as end of Vedas. Means it is end. This is the final essence. This is the final essence of Vedas. Understood? Right, it is final essence of the Vedas. So Brahma is the main God, it's supreme God, divine power, ultimate power who has created everything. Now the point is, we were discussing that if Brahma is Brahma the God who has created everything, which includes Atma, which includes matter. Now matter can be termed as Prakriti, nature. Right, Atma can also be called as Purush. So now, Brahma, this divine power has created the whole universe. Or maybe the whole universe himself is a divine power. If we believe that the whole universe himself is a divine power, we are talking about Advait philosophy, Advait. If we say, no, Brahma is different and this is different, then it is Dvait philosophy. Right? If it is same, it is this one. If it is different, then this one. Dvait means two, Dvait, dual, Advait, two. No, not two. So it is same. So Brahma. So if whole universe is equal to Brahma, or this whole universe is actually Brahma, if we all are having essence of Brahma, so our complete soul, if we unite all the souls, then you can say that this is Brahma. The whole universe itself is Brahma. Now the point is how you can say that. By the way, Advait philosophy are part of Bhakti movement, right? It is not right now. Right now we are not discussing Dvait Advait. Right now we are discussing that some concept like this came into picture, right? Upanishadic thought talks about Brahma. It talks about Atma. It is talking about transmigration of soul. Now later philosophers will actually talk about different things. It is not Upanishad which is talking about Dvait Advait, etc., etc. It is just saying that Aham Brahmasmi. It is not saying whether the universe is same or not, or the God is, this whole thing is same or not. That's different philosophers. Later philosophers will come. A lot of philosophers will come. That who will have various interpretations from these books. That is medieval era. Not today. Not in ancient. And that is what Bhakti is. Right? So don't worry about that and that. It will come later. Worry about right now, worry about the idea, the concepts, right? The Upanishad can now tell me, yes or no. Tell me that can Upanishadic thought, this philosophy, can this be considered as social reform? Can this be called as social reform movement? Yes or no? Yeah, so Upanishad are final. Yes, correct. Yes or no? Can we call them as a social reform? There was some social thought, some practices which is being opposed, a new thought, a new philosophy is coming into picture. Yes, no. What? Start working. What happened, man? Yeah, Vedanta is the end. Yes, the end of this Shruti literature. No more literature in Shruti anymore. Last literature, right? Yeah. Manusmriti was acha. Okay. Internally, you can say anything, but yeah. Okay. Now you can ask me, sir, what is true? This is true or this is true? I'm saying that is something which a philosopher has to comment. That's how philosophy will be built. Somebody will say, Atma ही ब्रह्म है, right? ये दोनों सेम ही है. जो पूरी दुनिया है यही ब्रह्म है. क्योंकि अगर ब्रह्म कहीं और है, if Brahma is somewhere else, then where is Brahma? Are you getting my point? If Brahma is somewhere else, right? Then where is Brahma? So that means maybe the whole universe is Brahma. Maybe Brahma is somewhere else. Okay, let's get back to our discussion. So most importantly, you understood the social reform was a part. You understood the whole philosophy. So let's move forward. So till this point, we have discussed Vedic literature. This is the chart you already have. You have more names over here. You don't need to remember everything. You don't even if you don't go with this chart, it's perfectly fine. In fact, there's a better chart. Let me show you. So we discussed Upanishads. We discussed the relevance. This is something which we were discussing. Brahma, Paramatma, Atma. Right? This is something which we were discussing. Aham Brahmasmi, Brataranyaka Upanishad. What I said there, no? Astama Sadgama, Samasa Jyotirgamaya, Matur Deva Bhava, Pitur Deva Bhava, Char Deva Bhava. Here you find this. Right. So Rigveda we have already discussed. Purush Sukta, 10th Mandak already discussed. Right. Brahmana. There are two Brahmana, Atri and Kaushitaki in Rigveda. Right. Again, Atri Brahmana we had discussed, which is important. Kaushitaki, nothing important. Easy to remember. Upanishad again. Atri Upanishad, Kaushitaki Upanishad, Aranyaka, Atri Upanishad, Atri Aranyaka, Kaushitaki Aranyaka. This is in Rigveda. So easy to remember. Only two names in all three. So all are Atri Kaushitaki, Atri Kaushitaki, Atri Kaushitaki. Right. I'll show you the chart as well. Yajurveda we are talking about Adharyu priest, rituals and ceremonies. Krishna Shukra we are discussing. Right. Atri Brahmana has opinion, sanskar, drawing, agricultural field, and Brataranyaka Upanishad the oldest one, transmigration of. Samveda we were discussing music and all, right? Okay. Then Atharvaveda collection of spells, charms, diseases, and Gotra, Sabha, Samiti, all these things. So we have already seen this. I'll show you the chart. Better chart is this one. So Upanishad, you see all three are Atriya Kaushitaki, Atri Kaushitaki, Atri Kaushitaki. Only Atriya Brahmana is important in Rigveda. Right. Similarly, in Samveda, only Chandogya Upanishad is important. Right. Difference between Atma and Brahma and all things are discussed. Similarly, Yajurveda, Atriya Brahmana we are discussing, Matra Deva Bhava. And Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is the most important Upanishad. Transmigration of soul, Astama Sadgama, etc. etc. Then Mandu Upanishad, Satyam Jyate, rituals are broken more. So this chart will help you remember things, right? Now you see that there are more Aranyakas, obviously there are more Upanishads. For example, there is Katha Upanishad, Isa Upanishad, Maitreya Upanishad, etc. etc. But do we need to remember everything? You are not giving a Vedic examination, so it's perfectly fine, right? We are not doing research in Vedas, so that's perfectly fine. For general studies, this is more than enough. Yeah, so we are done with Vedic part. Now let's go. We are done with Shruti part. Shruti part is done. Let's go into Smriti part now. Right, Smriti literature. So there are 6 types of Smriti literature. Now, Smriti literature, you can assume that Smriti literature happened after the Shruti literature, of course. Right, it's actually interpretation, commentaries. Right, so this took place from roughly 600 BC to 600 AD. Much later phenomena. First of all, Rigveda was written, then other Shruti literatures were written. Right, if you put this on timeline. And again, this is not sacrosanct by the way. Right, don't take it like huh. So yeah, so we saw initially Rigveda. Then we saw 3 more Vedas plus Brahmanas plus Aranyakas plus Upanishad. We are done with the Shruti literature. Shruti. This is roughly till 600 to 500. 600 BC, let's say 600 BC. 500 BC, your Vedic era is done. And from here to roughly 600 AD, for next like 1000 years, you will find a lot of more Vedas written like Shruti literature. Sorry, Smriti literature. Lot of new Vedas. I'm sorry, not a lot of new literature, not a lot of new books. Now the new books basically are based upon these ones only. Building upon the religion, building upon the thought, building upon the philosophy. Understood? Right. Again, this 600 BC is not sacrosanct. There might be some Smriti literature happening maybe 100, 200 years before, right? Possible. Also, it's not 600 AD is like safe point. Yeah, roughly by 600 AD, all your Smriti literature will be done. Now, what is Smriti literature? Smriti. Now, Smriti literature, 6 number is very useful. 6. So, first Smriti literature is Vedangas. Vedangas. Right, let's list them. Second is Dharma Shastras. Second, Dharma Shastras. Dharma Shastras. Third is our Mahakavya. Mahakavyas. Third is your Upavedas. No, sorry, fourth is your Purana. Fifth is your Upaveda. And sixth is your Shtadarshan. Shad means again 6 darshan, Shad darshan. Right, the total 6 Smriti literatures we will discuss. Right, 6 Smriti literatures. Now, the first one is Vedangas. Right, Vedangas. In Vedangas, it is more like Vedangas. That is, we will have more books which will be called as limbs of Vedas. Limbs of Vedas. Vedangas. So basically, these books are addition to Vedas. They are like further addition, which will help you read Vedas. Now, by 600 BC, what happened? We started writing them down, right? So we started writing things down. Understood? So let's get back. So you will see in Vedangas, again we have 6 type of Vedangas. Again 6. Now you will understand what is this. First is Nirukta. Nirukta is technically origin of words. Technically it is called as etymology. And one example which we have of Nirukta is Yaska's Nirukta. Now, if you and me read this book Nirukta, Yaska's Nirukta, what will happen? We will be able to understand the words. Understood? We'll be able to understand the words. We can know which word came how. What is the origin of the word? So we will have better understanding of the Vedas. Are you getting my point? So Veda Angas, Anga of the Vedas, or the limb of the Vedas, helps us understand or read the Vedas in a better manner. Right? Similarly, second if you see, second is Vyakaran. You understand Vyakaran? Vyakaran is grammar. So for this we have Panani is the author, Yaska is the author. Panani, Ashtadhyayi. Panani is Ashtadhyayi. So if we read this grammar book, we will understand Vedas much better. I think now you got the point. Right? So Vedangas were written to help us understand Vedas better. Right? So what is Vyakaran? Then third is Shiksha. Shiksha is phonetics, means pronunciation. Understood? Pronunciation. Again, similarly, we have for phonetics, we have Panini's Shiksha. Again, Panini is the author. He wrote this book, Shiksha. So now we know how to pronounce that particular word, Shiksha. Right? Similarly, fourth is Chanda. Right? Chand is the length of the statement. Length, meter if you see, meter. So length of the statement. Suppose if this जो है प्रभु की कृपा भयो सब काजू, जन्म हमारा सफल भाजू. So प्रभु की कृपा भयो सब काजू. How many words? What is the length of the statement? Right? So you need to understand which kind of statement will have what kind of length. Whole book is written on this Chanda Sutra. It is science of meters. And then is Pingala Chanda Sutra. So this is book of Pingala, and it is Chanda Sutra. Right. Similarly, the fifth is Jyotish. Now you know Jyotish. Jyotish is astronomy. There is one more author, Lagadha. Vedanga Jyotish. And the last one is Kalpa. So last one, Kalpa I would like to emphasize. So yeah, so we're discussing all these 6. Kalpa we would like to discuss more. Kalpa Sutra, Kalpa Vedanga. Right. So Kalpa Vedanga has Sulva Sutra. Now what is Sulva Sutra? Sulva Sutra is basically, it also talks about, how to make a fire altar. If you want to make a Havan Kund, how to make that? So basically Sulva Sutra also deals with geometry, because without explaining geometry, you cannot tell me how to make this fire altar. Right? How much depth is required, at what angle I should create these steps and all. Right? So Sulva Sutras, from Sulva Sutras we can also assume that this is one of the first book we find on geometry, or this is also connected to architecture. We started into architecture. Right? So Vedangas, so initial book, starting of these things. So these are the Vedangas first time. Yeah, let's talk about Dharma Shastras. Yeah, very very famous. Let's talk about Dharma Shastras. I'll make a copy and I'll use this space again. Okay, Dharma Shastra. Now these are actually your multiple smritis, Dharma smritis. Now two are before Gupta period, or you can say roughly before 300 BC. There are 2 important smritis, and the one is famous, Manu Smriti. Right, Manu Smriti. So let's talk about Manu Smriti first. Very very famous book. Right, Manu Smriti. Now before I go into Manu Smriti, let me build up what it is about. This is about how to lead a life. Right, how a society should behave. You can understand that this is more about order. This is more about how a wife should do. How a wife should behave in the society, or how a wife should actually, perform her duty in the family, in the society. How husband should do. So let's talk about Smriti Dharma Shastra. Right. So Smriti Dharma Shastra, Manu Smriti. We are talking about Manu Smriti. Now Manu Smriti will cover so many things. For example, this is talking about genesis of the universe, how the universe was made. Right. Again, coming back to ceremonies, performing ceremonies. How to fulfill vows. If you commit to someone, if you promise someone, how to fulfill that. Right. Then holy bath. Suppose if you get to, suppose there is some ritual or something, and if you have to go down into a river, you have to perform a holy bath. How to do that? How to lead your sexual life? How to make marriages? Then your religious sacrifices. Then deceased ancestor. You must have heard of Pitru Paksha. Right. So your ancestors or Purvas who are not there, how to trip to them, or how to basically make them pacify, how to make them happy. If they're not happy, they're not pacified, what to do? All these things are written here. Right. What to do, what to eat, what not to eat. Cleanliness, impurity, duty of the wife. Vanaprastha. If you go to one, what are things you need to do? Duty of the royal people. Right. Then duty of women, men, etc. So that's what I was discussing. And Manu Smriti decides the life for you. And again, today we are criticizing Manu Smriti, right? You must have heard this, Krishna Kanhaiya Kumar case, right? We want Manuvad se Azadi, so this became very very famous, right? Manuvad se Azadi. See, I understand the objection. I understand the part where you say that you want to come out of this designed life. Nobody should tell us that this is the way a person should behave, or this is the way I have to lead my life. Right? We should be able to decide the position or the progression of our life on our own. Got your point, and you are right when you say that. But in this era, again, that's what I say, that do not try to judge history. Do not try to make decisions or basically stereotype, basically thinking, how can they do that? Sometimes It's like you give prescriptions for somebody who wants to have a prescription. Right? Sometimes people do ask for, they ask for advices. Sometimes they go to Dharmaguru, right? Whether they are right or wrong, that's a different debate, right? But they go to Dharmaguru and ask Dharmaguru to decide their life. If you are good enough, if you are strong enough, you can say the intelligent enough, or basically you know the know-how. If you can take that decision and want to live your life, that's a different thing, and you should be allowed to do that, right? But Manusmriti, maybe we should look at Manusmriti as prescription for those who wanted to lead. Who wanted to lead a particular way, right? Or basically it was the basic, the foundation behind, or basically below the social fabric then, right? How a society should behave, what should be the order of the society. Now, in this order we find that the status of women is low? Yes, no doubt about that. Right? Status of women is low. But why are you blaming Manusmriti for the status of women as low? Right? We must understand that this defines the thought process then. It is not defining the thought process, but basically it is not prescribing a thought process on its own. It's only writing down, it's only codifying what is the current philosophy. So don't take it like that this is prescribing. Take it like that at that point it was the philosophy or accepted thought. It's wrong or right, that's a different debate. That's in modern times, of course, we can say that this is right or that is wrong. But think like it was the normal phenomenon. It was how society was behaving to have a particular order. It was codified. I hope you got my point, right? I'm not saying that I'm supporting Manusmriti. I'm just saying that have a different perspective as well. When this was written, right, it actually tells you the thought process or philosophy of that particular era. Right? But you should be able now. Then it becomes you can say important document, and people will use it for judiciary and all those stuff. Yes. Going forward, what will happen? These smritis will become basis of judiciary. Right? They will become like, you can say, these smritis will become like Hindu laws. Now here you can say yes, the problem comes in. These smritis are based on Varna. They define a particular role to men and women. And now if your judicial system is based upon this, then it becomes problematic. So it's more about application. The issue is more about application. What we decided to do with this document, that is more problematic. We decided to use it as a base document for our judiciary. And then Varna is an important part of it. Right? A lot of things over here will be based upon Varna. Right? So yeah, so Manusmriti is the most famous one. Manusmriti, pre-Gupta period. There are many commentators. Vishwarupa, Meghaditi. Coming back, there it is. Yeah, so there are multiple commentators on it. Vishwarupa, Meghaditi. Now UPSC these days are asking about the philosophers. If this philosopher is related to what? Whether he's Jainism related or Buddhism related, something like that. And that is the reason we need to have these names in our mind. Not to mug up, just you should be able to remember, recognize. Only recognition is good enough. So Vishwarupa, Meghaditi, Kullu Bhatt. Then one more. Govindaraj. Govindaraj. Yeah, another Smriti which is again very, very famous and next very important after Manusmriti, written in the similar period before Gupta period, is Yajnavalakya Smriti. Second one, Yajnavalakya Smriti. This is also very, very popular, very much applicable. So now Yajnavalakya Smriti. Now the commentary written on the Yajna, again Smriti will be about the similar things, right? We already discussed Manusmriti, Yajnavalakya Smriti. They will be talking on the same lines. So don't worry about that. What is written in Yajnavalakya Smriti, similar things. But the commentary on Yajnavalakya are more famous. For example, there is one commentator Vishwarupa. Another commentary is by Jimutavahana, and he wrote about Dayabhaga. The commentary is Dayabhaga, and the last one, Vignaneshwar. Right, and his area, or basically his book, is called as Mitaksara. UPSC has already asked on the application of Dayabhaga and Mitaksara. That was a tough question by the way, but yes. So now they have already asked, so yeah, we know they can go into this direction as well. So Yajnavalakya, so Vishwarupa, Jimutavahana, Vignaneshwar. Again, very important as UPSC has already asked. Dayabhaga, Mitaksara. Right. We'll get back to the application of Jimutavahana and basically Dayabhaga and Mitaksara. The differences, there are a lot of differences upon how liberal they are. For example, suppose a son has a property. Father has a property. Right. There is, let's say, father has 10 lakh rupees. What is the claim of son on this 10 lakh rupees? Right? Can son take these 10 lakh rupees? Can father say that I don't care, get lost, I'll not give you these 10 lakh rupees? Right? Can father sell this property of 10 lakh rupees without discussing it with son? Right? So both these philosophy, Dayabhaga and Mitaksara, has a different take on the rights of father. So we'll have the discussion, but not today. Right? So let's continue. So today we are just understanding the Vedic, the Smriti literature now. So two important Smritis are written before 300 BC, before Gupta period, which is Manusmriti and Yajnavalakya Smriti. And then in Gupta period. Now Gupta period is the golden period. So we will have a lot of things. We will have a lot of Smritis over here in this era. We will have Narad Smriti. Then we will have Parashara Brahaspati Smriti. Then we will have Katyayana Smriti. So these six are important. Katyayana Smriti. Okay. So this was about Dharma Shastra. Dharma Shastra is basically about various dharma, your role in society. What is the Shastra of those dharma? What is the Shastra or the basically book of dharma? What all dharma you should do? What all things you are supposed to do? What you should do as a father? What you should do as a mother? What you should do as a wife and husband, etc., etc. So different roles, right? We were discussing dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So this is your dharma. How you need to behave. That behavior is being codified or prescribed by various Smritis. Right? Okay, let's move ahead. Third one, Mahakavya. Now Mahakavyas, there are three Mahakavyas. One is, there are two Mahakavyas. Sorry, Mahakavyas. Mahakavyas. So now there are two Mahakavyas. One is Ramayana. Another one is Mahabharata. Now do we understand that these Mahakavyas were written after 600 BC? They were written down or they were compiled much later. They happened much earlier, right? But they were written down much later, right? Ramayana was written by Rishi Valmiki. And that is the reason he is called as Adi Kavi, one of the first Kavya we have, Adi Kavi. And that is the reason Ramayana is called as Adi Kavya. Right? It is basically written in 7 books, 7 khanda. And there are a total of around 24,000 verses, 24k verses. Yeah. Okay. Now this book is more about, okay, in very short story. So there's a place called Ayodhya, and Ram is the prince of Ayodhya. So Lord Ram, his father Dasharath asked him to leave Ayodhya for 12 years, and with his wife and his brother, he was exiled. He was sent to forest, right? So he spent most of his time in forest when his wife was taken away by Ravan to Sri Lanka. And then it's all about pursuit of Bhagwan Ram or Lord Ram to find his wife, invade Lanka, kill Ravan, and get back Sita Ji. Right? So the story in a nutshell. I know 90% of you already know, or I think everybody knows already, so I don't think we need to discuss. But one thing, the story is more about Purusharth, Purush Arth. Now what Purusharth is? Purusharth is Purush Arth. What is the Arth of Purush? What is the meaning of Purush? As a Purush, right? As that great soul, what you should achieve in your life. And here we again get to know the same thing, goals of life, that is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Right? Also this is victory of good over evil, that we know already, good over evil. This is called as Mahakavya, great epic. Similarly, Mahabharata. Now Mahabharata again, it was written in various, you can say, phases, right? So first of all, Mahabharata was written it was written by Ved Vyas. One of the or the initial version was written by Ved Vyas. Initially there were some 8,800 verses only, right? 8,800 verses, and it was called as Jaya. Initially it was just called as Jaya. Then this increased to 24,000 verses, and then it was called as Bharat, and then it increased to 1 lakh verses, and it is called as Mahabharata. There are, you can say, multiple revisions associated with Mahabharata. Right? Initially, it was a very short compilation, 800 verses, as compared to Ramayana, it was 1/3. Then it became equal to Ramayana, it became Bharat, and then it was 1 lakh verses. It's like big episodes, right? 98 episodes in total, I guess, as per the episode. Right? 1 lakh as per that series, 1 lakh verses. Totally, it is called as Mahabharata. Again, story in nutshell. So there is a family of Kuru here, close to Hastinapur. So there are two. The next generation, there are two families. One is of Pandu, and another one is of Dhritarashtra. Now somehow the sons of Dhritarashtra means Kaurav. Now Dhritarashtra became king, and his sons, Kaurav, 100 brothers, right? They didn't want son of Pandu, means Pandav, who are 5 in number, to take up the throne, and which led to the battle of Mahabharata. Again, I know you know, but mera farz hai, my duty to tell. This battle is called as Mahabharata. Now, one more book which is associated with Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita. And now you can relate that Bhagavad Gita is based upon Upanishadic thought. It talks about Atma, Ajara, Amar Atma, right? Kya lekar aaye the, kya lekar jaoge? Means what did you get when you born, right? What will you take when you die? So all these things are written in Bhagavad Gita. Now Bhagavad Gita again, it's written like somewhere around 150 BC, right? Roughly around 100 BC, and added to Mahabharata. So Mahabharata. So Bhagavad Gita also propounds one theory of Nishkam Karma. Okay, Nishkam Karma. Now Nishkam Karma versus Karma Marg. People get confused here. What is the difference between Nishkama Karma and we studied Karma Marg today? So Karma Marg you already know, right? So Karma Marg, we are not worried about Karma Marg, still let it be there. We are not worried about Karma Marg. Karma Marg we know it's about ritual. Then what is Nishkam Karma? So Nishkam Karma, so when these brothers were going to fight, so the chief warrior Arjuna, when he was like, I should not be fighting my own brothers, it is wrong, right? So he left his weapon and all, he was like, no, I can't fight them, these my brothers and all. When all that started, then Bhagavan Krishna gave this lesson of Bhagavad Gita, which actually meant that he should not be worried about the results. You should never be worried about the results. Results does not matter, right? Results, they do matter, but results, no worry. What does this mean? Should you really not worry about results? Should you don't care whether you get selected or not in UPSC? No, it does not mean like that, right? What is the meaning of this? Suppose there are, let's say, 100 books from which you will get 100 questions in your prelims examination. Right. And let's say there are only 20 books from which all these 100 questions came eventually in your prelims examination. Right? Should you be crying upon why I read other 80 books? Why? Should you be crying about this? Why did I waste my time? I should not have read those books. Yeah, so think about this. So you didn't know, right, from which book the question will be asked, right? You didn't know your which action will be, you can say, fruitful enough to give you a result. It's like when you do 100 actions, 20 actions will give a result, and 80 of them will not give any result. But if you start optimizing, if you start thinking that my every chapter or every day or let's say every action should give me a result, then you will feel bad. Because 80 of them will not be fruitful. 80 will not deliver any result. So if you get attached to it, then I know I have to get result out of my every action, out of my every step. It is impossible. You need to understand this 80-20 rule that 100 of your actions produces 20 such actions which will give result. But those 20 can only be produced if you do 100 actions. Those 20 you had read because you read 100 books. If you read only 20 books, you might have encountered only 2 books from which questions will be asked, and that will be only few. And you will fail for sure. But if you read these 100 books, then those 20 are subset of that, and then you can say that yes, I know these 100 questions, you will be selected. Right? This is a Nishkama Karma, right? There should be no desire, Nishkama, right? There is no desire or feeling attached to any karma. It does not mean that you don't have to actually strive for the result, but don't worry for it. It is not in your hand. Only thing in your hand is hard work. Only thing in your hand is karma, not the result. Result will automatically happen based upon your karma. Right, I hope you got this point. Right, let's continue. Okay, so yeah, so these are your Mahakavyas. I think Mahakavyas we are finished. Next is Puranas. Puranas. Let's talk about Puranas. Next book, Puranas. Puranas. So Puranas. Now, Puranas actually, Puranas are basically your mythological text written from creation to destruction. You know how this universe got created, how it was destroyed. Then there are various gods in between. Then there are various kings in between. Right, right. It writes about all those kings, all the stories about those kings and the gods and all. So technically, what it does. Suppose we have a Purana called Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Purana. Now, Vishnu Puran is all about Bhagwan Vishnu and his story, Lord Vishnu and his story. Right? You know, there are 10 avatars of Vishnu. This avatar did this thing, these things. This avatar did these things. So all the tales, or basically all the power of the stories of Bhagwan Vishnu will be in this Puranas. Now, again, think very logically, practically, that these Puranas, when these books will be written, these books will be very, very popular because these books are about gods. These stories are about God. They'll be like bestseller then. Again, don't take me wrong. Disclaimer is on. They will be like super popular because everybody of us will be interested in understanding the story of Bhagwan Vishnu. They'll be like super popular, very popular. Everybody wants to know what happened in Vishnu Puran, what happened in Shiv Puran, what happened in Matsya Puran, right? And they will be so popular that later on you will have to write like 19 more books which are called as Upa Purana. Right? It also tells us about what happened before Aryans came into India. Understood? Even those stories are here, right? Before they came to India, what other things happened, etc., etc. Matsya Puran is the oldest Puran, by the way. Oldest Puran. Okay, let's move ahead. Next is Upavedas. Now there are four books. There are four books which are considered as a book related to Vedas, Upavedas. For example, Ayurveda. Ayurveda is associated with the Rig Veda. Now, actually, I don't want to discuss this topic. Reason: different source talks about different Upavedas. There are few names if you see. Ayurveda is a Upaveda. Dhanurveda is a Upaveda. Then Shastra, martial art is Upaveda. Gandharva Veda is Upaveda. Shilpa Shastra and Sthapatya Veda, architecture, Sthapatya. Then all these are Upaveda. Now, few are associated with various Vedas. For example, Gandharva Veda is associated with Samveda. Right, but I would avoid this discussion because various sources talks about different Veda with different Upaveda. For example, a government source includes Arthashastra over here and says that Arthashastra is associated with Atharva Veda. Right, Dhanurveda is associated with Yajurveda and Ayurveda is associated with Rig Veda. Same I have written in the notes as well. Right, it is same in the notes here, and I've used this government website. Yeah, but still, let's not go into this dimension. Let's not associate it with the Vedas because various other books actually says that this Veda is associated with this particular way. So different books have different takes on it. So yeah, so let's go with the government source. Let's go with the source I've added in this slide. Okay, anyway, so we have discussed Vedanga. Achha, by the way, again, one more thing you have missed. In your Dharma Shastras, even marriages are defined. Anuloma Vivaha. Anuloma Vivaha, when higher one marries the girl from the lower one. That is fine, that is Anuloma Vivaha. But Pratiloma Vivaha, when girl of a higher one is married to a man of a lower one, it is called Pratiloma Vivaha. Similarly, there are more kinds of marriages mentioned in Dharma Shastra, Brahma Vivaha, Daya Vivaha, Arsa Vivaha. This is your homework, man. I don't want to tempt you with the marriages and all. Many of you are on the verge of getting married. So let's stay away from the marriage discussion. Okay, so Upaveda. So these are the Vedas as per the government side. Yeah, Ayurveda, Veda and all. Okay. But you'll definitely come back with different sources. Sir, this Upaveda is not matched with this one. I'm already telling you that this is as per the government side. Last thing, Shada Darshan. Now Shada Darshan. What is Shada Darshan? I hope we have time, right? Oh yeah, great. Okay. Shada Darshan. Shada Darshan is technically Shada Darshan. Shada means six. Darshan means philosophy. Technically it means demonstration of truth. Satya kya hai? What is truth? Right, demonstration of truth. Shada Darshan basically talks about there are multiple philosophers, there are multiple people, there are multiple schools of thoughts. Sankhya Darshan, Yoga Darshan, Naya Darshan, Vaisheshika Darshan, Mimamsa, Vedanta. Everybody has a founder, there are various texts associated with the thought. So there is a school, Sankhya Darshan, which says that if you want to achieve moksha, there is a particular way. Similarly, Yoga Darshan will also say there is a particular way. There is a particular way. So these six schools actually tells you how to get moksha. Mostly derived from what? Mostly derived from, or basically they are derived from Vedic text. So basically, let's write it as Shruti text. And mostly Upanishad. And sometimes Brahmana. Again. So Shada Darshan. So basically there are various thoughts, various schools which tells us how to reach moksha. Based upon what various rishi or various scholars, based upon their study of Upanishad, Brahmana, Vedas, they came back and told us that how to reach moksha. So there are six different schools which tells us how to reach moksha, how to get moksha. Now again, some of them will be say, or most of them will be say that via Gyan Marg, and maybe some of them, or one of them will say that no, via Karma. Yeah. So basically these are the six philosophies: Sankhya, Yoga, Naya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, Vedanta. Six philosophies, six founders, and then there are foundational texts which talks about what the sutra actually means. So next chapter is your Shada Darshan, is your all these philosophies: Sankhya, Yoga, Naya, Vaisheshika, Mimamsa, and all. Because MCQ was already asked, and I believe that they might go in detail, something in detail, right? So we should understand what it actually stands for, right? So yeah, so we'll talk about these philosophies. We'll continue from here tomorrow, right? Please let me know if we got what we have studied today. If you got confused, please go and revise. Maybe see this whole video again. Yeah, Anand. Yeah, maybe see the whole video again. See, it's not tough. It's a bit technical. Like Sanskrit words here and there. all those things. Verse is both are same. See, my suggestion is do not leave this part. Just at least attend the class. Even if you want to leave this part, leave this decision for later. Right? Leave the whole decision for later time. Once you have studied Buddhism and Jainism, after that you can take this call whether you go ahead with this chapter or not. But I believe it's not tough. It's very simple. Only you need to recognize things. That's it. Right? Only it's a bit technical because of a lot of Sanskrit words and all. Also, teaching this chapter in English is a bit tough, right? Because there are so many Hindi terms, Sanskrit terms, and all, and there is so much explanation associated with it, which makes the whole discussion not that much organic. Yeah, but anyway, that's okay. You wish UPSC to leave this part. Most probably they will leave this part. Most probably. That's why I'm not saying that you have to whether you have to go or you have to study this or not, because they have asked very few questions from here. But in philosophy, the other part, the bhakti and all, that is more important. What are verses? Right, verses is basically when you write in a straightforward spoken language, that is verses. Written in a paragraph form, story form. When you write in the, I'm sorry, that is prose. If you write in the story form, if you write in the straightforward spoken language, that is prose. When you write it as a poem, when you write it as rhyming, right? For example, like Raghukul read Sada Chal Pran Jai Par Vachan Jai. When it's rhyming, Jai Jai, then it is what? Then it is verses. Yeah, it's over for today, so we'll keep it till this point only. Also, I have floated this form. No, there is nothing like combination of Gyan and Bhakti. There are two distinct marks, but Gyan and but one more final thing I need to add. Just a thing, guys. Final thing. We were discussing moksha, and we have already discussed two important ways. One is your Karma marg, another one is your Gyan marg, and there is one more way, which is Bhakti marg. And this also sounded like a social reform. This is more like a social reform. It is social reform over all of them. Bhakti marg is where you just worship the God or love the God, whichever you want. Yeah, right. You just need to love God. You need not to have any kind of knowledge or because God, your relation with God is very personal. Right? You can love the God the way you want, and that is Bhakti marg. Right? So this is third marg. This is the third important marg. So these three are important: Karma, Gyan, and Bhakti. Okay. What happened? Okay. Got it. Okay, guys. So let's meet again tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll continue our discussion. We'll talk about Indian philosophy tomorrow, right? And please go ahead with the discussion. Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, yeah, both are the same. 1800 verses in Mahabharata is known as Jaya. Yes. Initially there were only 1800 verses. Then it was called as Jaya. Illusions are just mistake of soul. Yeah, maybe. It's philosophy, man. You can go in any direction. Okay, I just get it. Thank you. Okay, so let's meet again tomorrow. Please read it once and. Yeah, get back tomorrow after reading the whole thing, but you can watch that video again. Yeah? Okay. By the way, I'm not an expert in philosophy, so if I made any mistake or something with respect to the philosophical, by practice, if there is something, suppose you are practicing some philosophy and there is some difference, minor difference, right? Yeah, so again, I'm not an expert, disclaimer is on, right? As for the thought or as for the academic purpose, what you're studying, that is good enough. Yeah? Okay, thanks for that. See you again tomorrow. Bye-bye. Take care.